All right, so I've been checking out a lot of games in the Steam Detective Fest that's going on right now, and I was kind of doing some research for my own games. I was playing Blueprints, and I also played the Roottrees Are Dead, 2 games that came out in 2025 and have been on a lot of kind of Game of the Year lists, and I've heard from other people that are in the kind of puzzle genre space that these are great games, so I wanted to take the time to check them out. And I had a lot of thoughts about the sort of way that these games are structured, and also the role that kind of tedium and frustration play in these games, because in both of these games have a unique relationship with tediousness, tedium, right? Where if you've played Blueprints, you might have had this experience where the drafting of the room tiles or the use of the roguelike mechanics and having to do runs every day kind of clashes a little bit with the puzzle experience. And I was also thinking kind of about that with Roottrees Are Dead that I played last week, that there was some aspects of tedium with this game that frustrated me a little bit, but didn't stop me completely from pushing forward in the game. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about these sort of games where you're essentially like given a job to do, like in Obra Dinn, you're investigating what's going on the ship. You're performing your job as like an insurance adjuster or whatever. And this one with the Roottrees Are Dead, you're trying to piece together a family tree to sort out an inheritance issue, right? So you're doing work, but there's something about this work that's intrinsically motivating that you want to continue to unravel the mystery. And if at any point it becomes too tedious, that's a point where players can kind of just jump off and not really have to, not to want to engage with it anymore. So I was thinking about Roottrees Are Dead, because this game, you're searching like a 1998 era internet for clues. So not everything is searchable on the internet. It's pre-social media, so all of the people that you're trying to research about in this game are not necessarily posting on their social media accounts, right? There's only a handful of them that actually have an active web presence. So you have to be kind of clever about where you search for these names. So for example, if a name doesn't come up when you search for it on the computer, you might be able to check periodicals for it. You might be able to see if they are related to any like companies, and those companies sometimes have listings. So a lot of what actually ends up happening in this game is you're just kind of searching the same clue on multiple different things. You're searching the web browser, you're searching the periodicals, you're searching your evidence. You're kind of poking at the same name or the same problem that you're trying to, this. You just need to find out this person's profession, right? You have to find out their name, their profession, and their picture, and maybe you're just missing their profession. You have to like search all of these pages, search their spouse's name, try to find maybe their children talked about that their dad was a plumber or whatever, right? So that part of the game ends up being a little frustrating, but overall the experience is pretty flowy. I think they did a good job with this one. And I think where, compared to Blueprints, that this Roottrees Are Dead really shines is in the conclusion. Like it concludes. You finish the game. There's not like an endless spiral of things for you to try to figure out. So I think that this is actually was really nice, because sure, there was a little bit of tedium in the middle, but you push through and it's not that frustrating of an experience. It resolves nicely and you're left satisfied at the end. Compared to with my experience with Blueprints, which was like the first 10 to 14 hours of this were amazing. I thought the roguelike mechanics were really fun and actually drove me further into the game. Like, I liked the random nature of it, that I could kind of stumble upon another mystery, or I could find something new to be concerned about, or if it didn't quite line up for me, it was, oh well, I'll just start another day. And then if it did line up for me, like I got all the steps I needed, I drew all the room tiles I wanted, it just felt incredible. Like it was a huge rush that I felt like uncovering the mysteries in this game. But I feel like the biggest point of frustration comes after you find room 46, which a lot of people in the Blueprints community will call the tutorial. It takes about maybe 15, 17 hours to get to that point. And after that, the game doesn't end. There's more mysteries for you to uncover. There's more cryptic, less play-tested mysteries for you to kind of try to solve. And I think the mechanics start to kind of fight back at you at that point and become a little tedious, because they if you don't draw the rooms that you need to investigate a very specific thing, then too bad, you have to try tomorrow and hope that it comes together. So I really wish the game came to a more cohesive end, maybe around when you get to room 46, but it was frustrating to me because the game basically says that like, it teases you if you stop. It encourages the protagonist of the game to continue uncovering mysteries, and is like it like insinuates that that's what life is all about, is like solving the mysteries. So it's like, I'm not going to stop here, I'm going to find more stuff. And then I ended up liking the game less because of that. And the other thing about Blueprints, it gets compared a lot to Outer Wilds, which I actually really want to talk about a lot. In Outer Wilds, you have to comprehend the full scope of the narrative and the mystery in order to solve the game. So the narrative and the puzzle design are intertwined, right? But with Blueprints, you can kind of solve the game. You can find room 46 without really knowing what's going on in the narrative. There's characters that have kind of presented themselves, but you don't figure out what's happened to them or solve their thing in order to solve the game as a whole, which I thought was a big missed opportunity. I think if those threads came together at the end, that would be wonderful. And while we're talking about Outer Wilds and kind of the tedium in these kind of games, I did want to talk about the fact that I never felt like Outer Wilds was tedious. I do consider it a detective game in a certain sense. The physics sandbox nature of that world just makes it so that things don't really feel tedious unless you're stuck on trying to get to a very specific place and you don't know how to do it. But the nature of exploring that world felt so playful to me that I never really felt like it was frustrating. But I know other people have had different experiences with that game. For me, Outer Wilds is like my favorite game of all time, which is why I've decided to make a game that's kind of very similar to it, called FORKLIFT FLOWERPOT, where you are exploring a strange world, investigating plants, and trying to solve a mystery. And so playing all these games for Steam Detective Fest, which FORKLIFT FLOWERPOT is also a part of, has been very informative for me in studying the design of these games and trying to figure out, okay, how can this apply to my game? How can I make my game engaging? How can I make the aha moments very exciting? I think the game is in a really good place now, and I'm excited to continue developing it over the next couple of months. So if you would like to stay in touch and hear more about that, I write a newsletter once a month called the Tomato Club, where I talk about games I'm playing, stuff like Blueprints and Roottrees Are Dead. I'll probably write about them this month in the newsletter. And I also talk about development on my own games and just kind of updates from the community, so I recommend you sign up for that.